If you have never heard about Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters programs, these are programs that are fully funded by the EU for you to be able to study within the EU for a period of 2 years, fully funded, whereby your tuition fee is waived, your insurance is covered, you're covered in terms of transport, you're given a stipend, and you can be able to actually live comfortably as a student for 2 good years. And this is not a scam. I have spoken about this quite a bit of time, and this is not a scam. The EU fund is actually set aside specifically for education purposes, as well as other things like youth, sports, and so on and so forth. And Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters programs is just one of the parts of which the EU actually funds. So how does the Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters program mobility really work? Now, I want to give you a scenario where you've gone through the catalog, you've chosen maybe 2, 3 programs or even 5 programs that you are very interested in applying for, and then you see that one of these programs is actually going to be in, let's say, even 5 or even 7 countries. Nowadays, I have seen quite a number of programs incorporating several countries, and then you wonder, okay, so what does it mean? Does it mean that in each of these countries that I will go to, I will gain a different certificate, or what exactly does it mean? Now, for instance, if you find a program that has maybe Spain, it has Germany, it has France, it has maybe Portugal, it has Kenya even, you find others have maybe Cape Verde, others have Uganda, you can find that this program has 6 countries listed that would be participating in this program. So what that would mean is that the program is for 2 years, right? So which means that maybe the first country that you will go to is Spain. Right? Now, this first country that you will go to, you will spend a period of 6 months in that country doing your first semester. And during this first semester is where you will be doing coursework, which means that you will be doing the modules that are stipulated in any one of the program websites, right? So this means that you would be going together with your group of students that have been taken in as scholarship holders. You will all be going to Spain for your first semester in the specific university that you have been called to go into in Spain, which would mean that after those 6 months that you qualify to actually have a certificate that you studied in that university in Spain, right? Now, once the first semester is gone, which is usually potentially from something like October all the way to February, you've completed your first semester. It is time to go to your second semester, right? Which would mean that you would need to move and go to your second country, which potentially might be Portugal, which means that from March for another 6 months until somewhere maybe August, usually August people just break off, but from March maybe potentially until June or July, that you're going for your second semester in Portugal. And in the designated university, whatever it is, the university you will go into, all of you will go again into the designated university in Portugal and do your coursework for those 6 months, and then get a certificate from that university in Portugal. And these certificates will actually be issued at the very end, right? So stay with me. Now, the third semester, it would mean that you're now maybe going into specialization even the more, and it would still maybe be coursework, and you can potentially now go into the other country. For example, if at all maybe it was France, then you can go to France and do your 6 months of coursework in that country. In between, usually you find that maybe from July all the way to September, there is a break which you could go for summer school, or maybe you can go for an internship. This is where the other countries are incorporated into. You might find that you have, a period where you can go for an internship, maybe in Uganda or in Kenya, or some people will go to Asia, or you go to South America, depending on the countries that are participating in this particular program. Now you need to check with your program coordinator to see which exactly is the university that I would be going to, or maybe exact company that I would be going into for this internship. Whatever it is, it really is dependent on the program. Now, once you have completed your internship in between, this is in between your first year going to your second year, now you come back and go to France to complete your third semester of coursework, right? And this third semester of coursework in whatever the university, once again, will gain you another certificate. Now, for your fourth semester, which is now the last semester so that you can complete your whole degree, it would mean that you would need to have chosen a supervisor from any of the other of the participating universities. So it would mean maybe you have found a supervisor maybe in Spain, which was your first country, or maybe you have found a supervisor maybe in Portugal, or maybe the supervisor is in France, or whatever other country that is participating. Then you would go back to that country for your fourth semester. So which means that now you need to think about exactly what you want to study. And for some, especially if you want to stay back and work in that country, or maybe continue to do an internship in that country, then you need to really think about which country you end up going for your thesis semester, because this will determine whether or not you can be able to actually stay in that country. And obviously this is dependent on the residence cards, the type of visa that you have, whether it is easy to change it from a student visa to a work permit, and all that comes with it. Now, there are some programs that actually begin with winter school. There are other programs that have summer school in between. And so there are programs that will tell you before you actually begin your program at the very beginning, which is sometime in October, then you need to go for winter school. And they will stipulate this, that maybe this is going to be for 1 week, maybe this is going to be for 2 weeks. You will go for winter school prior to beginning your studies within the program structure, depending on what exactly they have stated. Now, once you have understood this, it means that during the duration of those 2 years, you will be living in different places, and you can be moving with the group of students that, are within your scholarship, and you can move together and maybe get housing, student housing together throughout the whole journey of the 2 years. Now, you can choose obviously to have different types of accommodation or whatever it is, depending on what you feel that you can afford. But I also want to have a caveat here, because some of the programs will have different study tracks. What this means is that, you will find that a program has a study track where some people can choose to begin in a certain country, right? And others can choose to begin in other countries depending on what they want to study. Not so many programs have this type of caveats, but you will find there are some of these programs that do have the caveat of whereby you'll find maybe a certain group of people might be beginning Belgium, then go to France, then go to Germany, while others might be beginning in Spain, then they go to Luxembourg, and then they go to the UK, depending. Again, the UK is now very much within the Erasmus, structure. So you can expect to especially go in universities, for instance, in Glasgow or in London. So you can find that there are several study tracks. And what this means is that by the time you're completing the whole study track, or by the time you're completing together with your scholarship mates, then at the very end of the 2 years, then you ought to receive certificates from each of these universities. Some of the programs might give you one certificate that states that you studied in, university A, B, C, D, E. Others will give you certificates for various countries, for the various universities that you actually went into. And these certificates are usually issued at the very last minute. One fun fact is that you might find that your program does not necessarily have a graduation ceremony as you are very much used to. For instance, if you come from Kenya, then you would expect that the graduation ceremony ought to be a very big thing. But in most cases, you will find that there are no graduation ceremonies. Actually, some people just graduate via an email well, or maybe they have already left the country, and then you will have your certificates sent to you in the country that you are going into, or back to your home country. So this is a thing that happens, and these certificates might even be sent maybe a month later, whatever it is, depending on your program. Then this is what you need to expect. So at the end of the 2 years, you will have graduated with the ECTs of all these universities that you went to in different cities, and all this becomes the aggregate of what exactly you actually studied. Now, once you have already completed and you have all the, grades, you have everything, if you go back to your own home country, for example, if you go back to Kenya and you would want that to be recognized in Kenya, then you would need to register for it so that it is actually recognized in Kenya by the Ministry of Education. And now you can use that qualification towards finding a job or towards finding, a project that you are interested in, and so on and so forth. Now, what this also means is that if you graduate from an Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters program, then you can also be able to utilize these certificates towards maybe looking for an internship within the EU. You can use this towards looking for a PhD within the EU. You can also use this towards looking for a job within the EU. And even a fun fact is that, for example, the Netherlands usually has this such a visa that is usually open for all Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters, graduates, and you can be able to apply for it to, go to the Netherlands to look for any job. But I would not recommend it, especially for accommodation's sake. But if you can be able to handle it, then yes, you can go to the Netherlands and be able to look for a job for the period of 1 year. And then after that, maybe if you find a job and then you can be able to renew it and so on and so forth. There is a lot that you can read about that as well. And I've spoken about it, and maybe I should speak about it more often. But this is how this mobility works. Now, within this period of 2 years, you're going to receive a monthly stipend. Your insurance is going to be covered for the whole period. You will have your tuition waived. You will have pretty much all the resources that you need from your program coordinator. So you do not have to worry about, wondering what next. Your program coordinator will always be the one that guides you within this whole period. And I also have seen another question where people ask, can I move with my spouse? One of the things that I will tell you is that no, Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters programs do not fund the spouse. They are only funding you. So if your spouse wants to move in with you, then what maybe they could potentially do, if they have a job, for example, they can apply maybe for a nomad visa in a certain country that you would be going into. So for instance, maybe they can apply for a nomad visa in Spain, or maybe they can apply as, a founder, or they can apply for whatever else, but separately from Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters programs. They do not fund a spouse or a child, so you cannot just decide that you will move with them and they will be funded. No, it doesn't work like that. So if you have a spouse, or if you have somebody who is dependent on you and you want them to move in with you, they would have to move in with you on very different terms. And remember that you're going to be as mobile as you can. And Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters programs are quite immersive. So you don't want to find yourself in a push and pull situation. So you need to focus. And again, it is very much doable. And if you have found this video helpful, I am going to be opening my membership here on YouTube once again. So please go ahead and join my membership, where I will be talking a little bit more about scholarships, Erasmus Mundus Joint scholarships, and how to apply for them. So please join my membership. I would really, really appreciate if you join, so that we can have more sessions on how to apply. I should be able to do more webinars, but if you want to join very soon as now, and we can start working together, you can join in my membership, and I can spend a few minutes to a few hours every week for you to be able to be prepared enough for you to actually start your journey in the EU and study your Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters program. So until next time, bye.